Male-dominated world of crime writers, Patricia Cornwell is queen. Her best-selling books about medical examiner Dr. Kay Scarpetta started a worldwide fascination with criminal forensics. And while her fictional heroine always gets her man, Cornwell believes she's got hers as well. She's spent millions investigating the most infamous crime mystery of all time and is convinced she's unmasked the true identity of Jack the Ripper. Here's our own super sleuth, Ross Coulthart.
My intuition picks up on a calculating intelligence, an individual with a decided purpose. He's not a novice. We may have discovered how the killer controls his victims. It's possible this attention-seeking psychopath has inadvertently left a peephole into his modus operandi. I see what the bastard did.
What Patricia Cornwell does in her novels is take the tools of crime fighting and place them in the hands of a powerful, thinking female heroine, Kay Scarpetta. Patricia's fictional stories inevitably begin with real detective work.
I love blood spatter because blood screams bright red that somebody did something wrong.
Researching blood spatter evidence with crime scene police in Boston.
Based on the blood pattern, it looks to me like at least 3 blows were struck.
So many of her books have the investigating female turning the tables on a powerful male killer, avenging the victim with science and intuition. Patricia knows what it's like to be powerless.
You've been a victim of crime yourself, haven't you?
I certainly have. By the very early age, I think I was around 5, when I was living in Miami, we had a neighborhood patrolman. Turned out nobody had checked to see that he was a convicted child molester, and he began physically molesting me. What I remember about it most vividly is that I felt I'd done something wrong. I really fell into the victim syndrome of not blaming him, but blaming myself, and then feeling terrible that my mother was so upset.
How has that experience coloured the way you write?
I think all of my experiences color the way I write because I have feelings about what I say. I've seen enough dead people, enough suffering. I've been to enough crime scenes. I've been through enough things in my own life that are extremely painful or humiliating or scary that when I write such things, I infuse my own symphony of emotions into them.
Patricia's father left the family when she was a toddler. Her mother was hospitalised with severe depression. And young Patricia and her brother wound up with a cruel foster mother who did her utmost to make their lives a misery.
I still have a ball of fire of anger about that lady because it's like, how do you do this to a 9-year-old child who's just lost her father and her mother? I have a lot of rage about that because it was just unbelievable cruelty, and I harness that rage when I kill people in my books. The body is gracefully posed, draped in white in a sea of red mud. Her eyes are barely open to the narrowest of slits, as if she's drifting off to sleep. Her pale lips slightly parted, exposing the white edges of her upper teeth.
A body in a sports field is how her latest thriller, Dust, begins.
I get down closer to look and I smell the earth and the rain. I detect perfume.
Patricia got her taste for writing as a crime reporter and then as a writer and analyst here at the Medical Examiner's Office in Richmond, Virginia.
I saw thousands of autopsies and hundreds of crime scenes, and that was my baptism into the evil sadism that people are capable of, and it was, something you don't get over.
Patricia's books have earned her many millions and the toys that go with it. Fast cars, helicopters, private jets. She's just won a $50 million payout in a lawsuit against her former business managers. The money has given Patricia the wherewithal to become a real-life detective and to crack the most famous crime of all. 125 years ago, the killer, known as Jack the Ripper, stalked these streets in East London, mutilating and murdering at least 5 women. The killer was never caught or identified.
These are the original newspapers.
Patricia's investigation began with the crime reports stored in the British National Archives and the original newspaper stories that detailed the Ripper murders.
Here's November 10th, 1888, another Whitechapel murder, and this is a big story about the latest.
I love the way they wrote. During the early hours of yesterday morning, another murder of a most revolting and fiendish character took place in Spitalfields.
The suspects were many. A barrister, Montague Druitt, an American, Dr. Francis Tumblety, a Russian conman, Michael Ostrog, even the Queen's grandson, Prince Albert Victor.
Is it really the case you spent $2.5 million of your own money investigating your theory about Jack the Ripper?
It's probably closer to at least 6.
Wow, really?
Patricia looked for clues in the letters that Jack the Ripper had sent, boasting about his murders. The original historic documents were subjected to modern forensic analysis.
And the most critical part was looking at the original letters and putting them on a light box, which no one had ever done before. They'd only looked at photographs. You could see the hand of an artist all over these things. Letters that are painted with a paintbrush, a woodcut, someone carving something intricate and stamping it in ink on a letter, and the hair began to stand up on the back of my neck.
That led Patricia to investigate artists of the time, among them Walter Sickett, whose paintings had scenes with chilling similarities to Jack the Ripper's murders.
The necklace is sort of evocative of the cut throat. She's holding something way up in a very odd position.
Look at the fear.
The fear, and one of the Ripper letters that he wrote to, the police and the media, he says, "What a pretty necklace I gave her."
Next, Patricia compared Sickett's handwriting with Jack the Ripper's. While it didn't match, it was probably disguised. What did match was a rare watermark. Only 24 sheets of this batch of paper were ever made, and it was the same paper used by Sickett and Jack the Ripper.
Can I tell you, I wouldn't want, if I was a crim, to have Patricia Cornwall on my tail, because you really went after this with a passion, didn't you?
Well, they're real crimes. And his evil influence isn't gone. I mean, Jack the Ripper, it's like Charles Manson. He still influences people because, the Ripper walks and the industry and the people that's still spinning theories. And I'm up against an industry. They don't want this case solved. But I am completely confident that Walter Sickett was this killer. And it's not a romanticized thing. This was a very damaged, disturbed person.
Patricia, you've sold 100 million plus books worldwide. Why do you think we're drawn to lurid crime?
I think that we're drawn to crime and we're drawn to death because it's an inevitability. It's something that we all face. No matter what we do, we know that someday we're going to die. At least we're not going to exist in the form we're in right now. And so we have an intense curiosity about this. I think it really, ironically, all goes back to our survival instinct as a species, that if we can dismantle death, like if you can figure out what happened in a murder, maybe you can make sure it doesn't happen to you.